She thought cleaning a crime lord's mansion would be the worst thing about her day. Then she found Marcus floating face down in the infinity pool, his white shirt billowing around him like a ghost. The man she was supposed to marry in 3 weeks. The man who'd vanished 6 days ago with nothing but a text saying he needed time to think. Naomi Okafor had scrubbed blood from marble floors before. You don't work for a man like Kang Min-jun without understanding what silence costs. But this blood was different. This blood belonged to someone she loved. Hello everyone, I'm back with another story that will grip you from the first word to the last. Today we're diving into a tale about secrets that kill, love that blinds, and the moment when you realize the monster you work for might be the only person who can save you. But before we begin this journey, please subscribe and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support keeps these stories coming. Now let's step into Naomi's nightmare. The morning started like every other morning. Naomi arrived at the Kang estate at 6 a.m. Before the sun finished painting the sky, before Min-jun's world of shadows gave way to his world of legitimate business. The gate recognized her car. Security nodded her through without questions. After 2 years of working here, she was part of the furniture. Invisible, trusted, useful, she'd taken this job out of desperation. A Nigerian immigrant with a degree that meant nothing in America, and bills that meant everything. When the agency offered her triple the normal rate to clean for a very private client, she hadn't asked questions. She'd needed to survive. The first time she met Kang Min-jun, he was sitting in his study at 3 a.m., surrounded by men in expensive suits who went silent when she walked in to empty the trash. He'd looked at her with eyes that seemed to catalog every detail, every vulnerability, every secret. Then he'd simply said, "Make sure the study is cleaned by dawn. What you see here you forget immediately." She'd nodded, she'd cleaned, she'd forgotten. Or pretended to forget, which in his world was the same thing. That was 2 years ago. Since then she'd learned the rhythm of his empire. The men who came and went. The phone calls in Korean that turned his voice to ice. The way he could smile at a business partner over dinner, and have that same partner removed from power by breakfast. She'd learned not to ask questions, not to see too much, not to exist beyond her function. But Marcus had made her exist. Marcus had seen her. They'd met at the grocery store 6 months ago. He'd reached for the same box of cereal she wanted. They'd laughed. He'd bought her coffee. He was an accountant. Normal, safe, everything Min-jun's world wasn't. When Marcus proposed 3 months ago with a modest ring and humble dreams, Naomi had cried, because she'd thought she'd found a way out. A way to stop being invisible, a way to build something clean. Then Marcus disappeared. The pool house was her last stop on the morning rounds. Min-jun rarely used it. The water was maintained. The area kept pristine, but it sat empty most days. A monument to wealth that served no purpose. She'd planned to do a quick check, maybe skim any leaves, and move on to the main house. But when she opened the gate, she saw him. Marcus, face down, arms spread wide like he was embracing the water. His favorite white shirt, his work pants, his shoes still on. The scream that tore from her throat was animal. Raw, the kind of sound that comes when your brain can't process what your eyes are showing you. She ran to the edge. Part of her knew he was dead. The stillness, the way the water barely rippled around him, but she reached anyway, grabbed his shoulder, turned him over. His eyes were open, empty. His skin was gray, and around his neck, visible now, were marks. Dark, deliberate. Someone had strangled him. Someone had killed the man she loved, and dumped him here like trash. "Miss Okafor," the voice came from behind her. Calm, measured, terrifying in its complete lack of surprise. Naomi spun around, still kneeling at the pool's edge, her hands wet with pool water and death. Min-jun stood 10 feet away, dressed in his morning suit, a coffee cup in his hand. He looked at Marcus's body with the same expression he used when reviewing financial reports. Analytical, detached. "You need to step away from the pool," he said. "You," she breathed, horror and understanding crashing together. "You did this. I did nothing." He took a sip of his coffee. "But you're making assumptions that could be dangerous." "He's dead." Her voice cracked. "Marcus is dead in your pool." "Yes." Min-jun set his coffee on a nearby table. "And now we have a problem." Naomi's legs wouldn't work. She tried to stand, tried to run, tried to do anything but kneel there beside the man she'd planned to marry. But shock had turned her bones to water. Min-jun moved closer, his footsteps soft on the pool deck, and crouched down beside her. Not touching, just present. "Look at me," he said quietly. She wouldn't. "Naomi." He rarely used her first name. "Look at me, or I'll have my men dispose of both bodies by noon." That made her eyes snap to his. He wasn't joking. She'd seen him give orders before. Calm, precise, final. "I didn't kill him," Min-jun said, his gaze steady. "But someone wanted me to think I should have." "What are you talking about?" "Your fiancé, Marcus Chen, age 32, accountant at Chen and Associates. Also a freelance forensic accountant who specializes in finding hidden money for law enforcement." Min-jun's expression didn't change. "Did you know about his side work?" The words hit like bullets. "No, that's not." Marcus wouldn't. Marcus was tracing money through shell corporations. My shell corporations. He'd been doing it for 3 months. Min-jun pulled out his phone, showed her screenshots of financial records, official documents, communications with what looked like federal agents. "He was building a case, using his relationship with you to get closer to information about my operations." Naomi's world tilted. "You're lying. I don't need to lie to you. You're not important enough to lie to." The cruelty of the statement was matter of fact, not malicious. "But his body appearing in my pool the morning before he was supposed to testify. That's a message." "A message from who?" "Someone who wants me to look guilty. Someone who knows that a dead federal witness on my property is enough to bring everything down." Min-jun stood brushing invisible dirt from his pants. "So the question becomes, do I call this in and spend the next decade fighting a murder charge? Or do I make this disappear and accept that someone just declared war?" "You're talking about hiding a body, about covering up murder. I'm talking about survival." His survival ended the moment someone strangled him. "Your survival depends on what you do next." Naomi finally managed to stand, backing away from both Min-jun and Marcus's floating corpse. "I should call the police. And tell them what? That you found your fiancé dead in your employer's pool." "That employer being the suspected head of a criminal organization." Min-jun tilted his head. "They'll assume you're complicit. They'll tear apart your life looking for connections, for evidence, for anything that proves you helped him." "Is that what you want?" "I want Marcus alive." "That's not an option, but staying alive yourself is." He moved between her and the gate. Not threatening, just present. "You have a choice, Miss Okafor. Walk away from this. Forget you saw him. Let me handle the situation quietly. Or involve authorities and watch everything. His investigation, your life, my patience, burn together." Her hands were shaking. "Why would I trust you?" "Because I'm the only one being honest with you right now. Marcus lied about who he was. Someone else killed him and staged this to destroy me. But I'm standing here telling you the truth. If you run, you die. If you talk, you die. If you trust me, you might actually survive long enough to find out who really killed the man you loved." Naomi stared at Min-jun, trying to find the lie in his words, the manipulation, but his face showed nothing except patient calculation. He was waiting for her decision the way he'd wait for a business partner to sign a contract. Like her choice was inevitable and he was simply allowing her time to accept it. "Why would you help me?" she asked. "I'm not helping you. I'm helping myself. You're a complication, but you're also leverage." He gestured to Marcus. "Whoever did this expects me to panic, to make mistakes, to act like a criminal instead of a businessman. But if you cooperate, if we handle this carefully, we can use you." "Use me how?" "You were his fiancé. You're grief-stricken, confused. When he went missing 6 days ago, you filed a report. You called his friends. You did everything a worried partner does." Min-jun's eyes narrowed. "Now you're going to keep doing that. You're going to be the heartbroken woman searching for answers. And while everyone watches you grieve, I'm going to find who killed him and why. And what happens to his body. It disappears. Properly. With respect." Something flickered across Min-jun's face, almost too quick to catch. "I don't kill civilians, Miss Okafor. And I don't kill men whose only crime was loving someone in my orbit. Marcus was collateral damage. That offends me." There was truth in that. She'd seen Min-jun's code before. The lines he drew. The rules that governed his particular brand of darkness. He didn't hurt families. Didn't target the innocent. Didn't make moves without purpose. If he said he didn't kill Marcus, she believed him. But believing him and trusting him were different things. "If I do this," she said slowly, "if I stay quiet, I want answers. Real answers about who killed him and why." "Agreed. And I want protection." If someone's targeting people connected to you, you'll have a security detail starting today. Discreet but effective. And when this is over, when you find whoever did this, I walk away from this job. From you. From all of it. Min-jun considered this. You can walk away from the job. From me? He smiled without warmth. We'll see. People who know what you know don't usually get to walk away. Then we don't have a deal. Yes, we do. Because you're going to accept my terms regardless. He moved past her, pulling out his phone. I'm calling my cleanup crew. You're going to go back to the main house. You're going to clean the study like you do every morning. And you're going to forget you saw anything here until I tell you it's time to remember. Min-jun, this isn't a negotiation anymore, Naomi. It's an order. His voice dropped to that dangerous whisper she'd heard him use on people who didn't survive their meetings. You're in my world now, really in it, and the only way out is through. 3 men arrived within 20 minutes. They moved like ghosts, efficient and silent, handling Marcus's body with professional detachment. Naomi watched from the study window, her hands mechanically dusting shelves, her mind somewhere between shock and survival instinct. Min-jun hadn't lied about the security. A woman appeared within the hour, introducing herself as Sarah, a driver, but the way she moved, the way her eyes constantly scanned, told Naomi she was much more than that. Former military, current protection. Mr. Kang wants you comfortable, Sarah said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'll be taking you home after your shift, and staying close. For your safety. I'm a prisoner. You're protected. There's a difference. Was there? Naomi wasn't sure anymore. The day crawled past in a fog. She cleaned rooms she'd cleaned 1,000 times, her body moving through muscle memory while her mind replayed finding Marcus, seeing his gray skin, understanding that the future she'd imagined was floating face down in chlorinated water. At 2 p.m., Min-jun called her to his office. He sat behind a massive desk, screens showing security feeds, financial data, things she'd learned not to look at too closely. But today he gestured for her to sit, to look, to pay attention. Marcus started investigating me 4 months ago. Min-jun began without preamble. Initial contact came through a federal task force, looking into money laundering. They approached him because of his reputation for finding hidden assets. He pulled up emails, communications between Marcus and FBI agents, details about shell corporations, offshore accounts, patterns of movement that all pointed back to Min-jun's empire. Naomi's stomach turned. He was using me. He was using proximity to you. There's a difference. Min-jun's tone was almost gentle. The initial approach happened before he met you. The relationship, that might have started as strategy, but what it became. He showed her a report. He requested to be pulled from the investigation 2 months ago. Said it was a conflict of interest. Said he was compromised. Because of me? Because he fell in love with you. Min-jun leaned back. The FBI denied his request. Told him to maintain the relationship. To keep feeding them information. He refused. Threatened to quit. That was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks before he proposed. Yes. Naomi processed this. Marcus had known what he was doing was wrong. Had tried to stop. Had chosen her over the investigation. And then someone had killed him for it. Who knew he tried to quit? She asked. His handler. The task force leader. Possibly others in the FBI. Min-jun pulled up more files. But there's another player. Someone who's been feeding the FBI information about my operations for 6 months. Someone with inside knowledge. The same someone who made sure Marcus's body ended up in my pool. You have a mole. I have a traitor. And that traitor just escalated from information leaks to murder. Min-jun's eyes hardened. They killed Marcus to send a message. To frame me. To force the FBI's hand into moving against me before I could find them. So what do we do? The whiz slipped out before she could stop it. Min-jun noticed, a slight curve to his lips. We play the game. You grieve publicly. I conduct business normally. And quietly, very quietly, we hunt. 4 days later, Naomi stood in a church she'd never attended, surrounded by people she'd never met, mourning a man she was learning, she'd never truly known. The FBI had found Marcus's car abandoned near the waterfront. They'd declared him missing, presumed dead by foul play. They'd questioned Naomi for 6 hours about his disappearance, about his state of mind, about whether he'd mentioned being in danger. She'd cried real tears, told them about the text message, about how he'd seemed distracted lately, About how she'd thought he was having doubts about the wedding. All true. All carefully incomplete. The FBI believed her, or seemed to. But one agent, a woman named Park Ji-won, watched Naomi with eyes that saw too much. After the interrogation, she'd handed Naomi her card. "If you remember anything else," Agent Park had said in Korean accented English. "Anything at all, please call me. Marcus was helping us with something important. His death isn't random." Now at the memorial service Marcus's family had organized, Agent Park sat 3 rows back, watching, not grieving, watching. Min-jun hadn't come. Too obvious. Too suspicious. But Naomi felt his presence anyway, in the security detail pretending to be mourners, in the surveillance she knew was tracking every person who attended, in the weight of the choice she'd made to stay silent. Marcus's mother approached after the service. A small Korean woman with Marcus's eyes, devastated and aged by grief. "He talked about you," she said softly. "Said you made him want to be better. That you saw good in him he'd forgotten was there." The words broke something in Naomi. Because they were true. Marcus had been good. Flawed, yes. Complicated, absolutely. But good in the ways that mattered. And now he was gone, because he'd tried to do the right thing in a world where right and wrong bled together, until you couldn't tell them apart. "I'm so sorry," Naomi whispered. "I'm so sorry I couldn't save him." Marcus's mother took her hand. "You loved him. That's what matters. That's what he needed." After the service, Sarah drove Naomi home. They'd moved her from her apartment to a secured condo. Min-jun's orders. Her things had been packed, transported, unpacked. She was living in a gilded cage, and everyone pretended it was for her protection. That night Min-jun showed up at her door. He stood in the hallway, still in his suit, looking tired in a way she'd never seen before. "May I come in?" She stepped aside. He entered her new space, looking around with the same analytical gaze he used for everything. "I found something," he said without preamble. The traitor made a mistake. Min-jun set his laptop on Naomi's kitchen counter, pulling up financial records that made her eyes glaze. But he pointed to specific transfers, specific patterns. "The mole has been moving money out of my accounts for months. Small amounts. Untraceable if you don't know what you're looking for. But they got greedy. 3 days before Marcus died, they moved a larger sum, and they made a mistake in the routing." "What kind of mistake?" "The kind that tells me they're not as skilled as they think they are. The kind that gives me a location." He pulled up a map. "A warehouse in the industrial district, registered to a shell company, that's registered to another shell company. But I traced it back, and I know who owns it." "Who?" "Lee Tae-hun. My head of security." The name hit Naomi like cold water. She'd met Lee. Professional. Loyal. The man Min-jun trusted with his life. "Are you sure?" "Not yet. But I'm close." Min-jun closed the laptop. "Which is why I need your help." "My help with what?" "Lee thinks you're just the maid. Thinks you're irrelevant. But you see things. You're in rooms people forget you're in. If he's the traitor, if he killed Marcus to frame me, he's still moving. Still planning. And you can watch him in ways I can't. You want me to spy for you. I want you to get justice for Marcus. Lee didn't kill him personally. He hired it done. But he ordered it. And I need proof before I move against him." Naomi sat down, processing this. Why would your head of security betray you? Money, power, fear, take your pick. Min-jun's jaw tightened. "I've known Tae-hin for 15 years. Trusted him with everything. If he's the one, if he's been selling me out, then I've been blind. And blindness in my world is fatal. And if you're wrong, if it's not him, then I keep looking. But I don't think I'm wrong." He met her eyes. "Will you help me?" She should say no. Should walk away from all of this. Should honor Marcus by staying out of Min-jun's war. But Marcus was dead because someone thought his life was expendable. And that someone was still breathing. Still free. Still dangerous. "What do you need me to do?" For 3 days Naomi became a ghost in Min-jun's world. She cleaned. She observed. She reported back every conversation Lee had. Every phone call he took. Every moment he thought no one was watching. Lee was careful. Too careful. He never said anything incriminating in front of others. Never made calls from the estate. Never did anything that would raise suspicion. But Naomi noticed the small things. The way he tensed when Min-jun mentioned Marcus's investigation. The way he steered conversations away from the FBI. The way he suggested Min-jun take a trip abroad, leave the country, let things cool down. On the fourth day, Min-jun set the trap. He announced a meeting, all his top people, a discussion about the Marcus Chen situation and how to handle the increased FBI scrutiny. Lee was required to attend. What Lee didn't know was that the room was staged. Every person there except him was loyal to Min-jun, and the documents spread across the conference table were specifically designed to make the traitor panic. These files, Min-jun began, his voice carrying the weight of controlled fury, show someone has been feeding information to federal agents for 6 months. Someone in this room. The temperature dropped. Everyone froze. I've been patient, Min-jun continued. I've been careful, but Marcus Chen's death crossed a line. Whoever killed him thought they could frame me, thought they could use an innocent man's murder to bring down everything I've built. He looked around the table. They were wrong. Lee's expression never changed. But Naomi, standing in the corner ostensibly to refill water glasses, saw his hand curl into a fist under the table. Min-jun pulled out a phone. This was recovered from a contact of mine. It contains messages between the traitor and their FBI handler. Plans to eliminate threats. Instructions to make Marcus Chen disappear. He set it on the table, and proof of payment for the hit. That's when Lee moved. He stood smoothly, reaching for the weapon at his waist. But Min-jun had expected it. Security materialized from the shadows. Guns trained on Lee before he could clear his holster. Don't, Min-jun said quietly. You don't get a warrior's death, Tae-hein. Not after what you've done. Lee's face finally showed emotion. Rage. Bitter, burning rage. You don't understand what they offered, what they promised. Money I would have given you if you'd asked. Power you already had. So what was it really? Pride, jealousy, the need to prove you were smarter than me? You're a relic, Lee spat. This organization should be mine. I built half of it. I protected you for 15 years. And you treat me like employee, like I'm replaceable. Because everyone is replaceable. Even me. Min-jun's voice went cold. But you weren't just replaceable. You were family. And you destroyed that for what? A deal with the FBI? They were never going to protect you. They were going to use you and throw you away. Like you used Marcus Chen. I never touched Marcus Chen. You killed him. You strangled him and dumped him in my pool because you needed the FBI to move against me before I found you. Min-jun leaned forward. But you made a mistake. You forgot about her. He gestured to Naomi. Lee's eyes found her, confused. The maid? What does she? Understanding dawned. She saw something. She saw everything, Min-jun said. And she helped me find you. What happened next happened fast. Lee lunged for Naomi, thinking maybe he could use her as leverage, as escape. But Sarah moved faster, intercepting him, putting him on the ground with professional efficiency. Take him to the warehouse, Min-jun ordered. I'll deal with him there. As they dragged Lee away, still cursing, still raging, Naomi felt the weight of what she'd helped accomplish. Justice for Marcus. Or something close to it. But she also understood that this wasn't over. The FBI still had their investigation. Agent Park was still circling, and Naomi was still caught between two worlds, belonging to neither. Min-jun approached her after the room cleared. You did well. I helped you torture someone. You helped me find a murderer. There's a difference. Is there, in your world? He considered this. Sometimes. Tonight? Yes. What happens to Lee? What happens to all traitors? He made his choice. Now he lives with the consequences. Min-jun's expression softened slightly. What happens to you is more interesting. You said I could walk away. I said you could walk away from the job. And you can. Your contract ends tonight. Sarah will take you anywhere you want to go. Back to your old life. Or somewhere new. Your choice. It should have felt like freedom, but Naomi had learned that freedom in Min-jun's world came with conditions. And the FBI? Agent Park? Will continue their investigation. But without their mole, without Marcus's testimony, they have nothing. They'll circle for a while, then move on. He pulled out an envelope. This is money. Enough to start over. Enough to forget. She took it. Felt the weight. Understood it was both payment and silence. Marcus loved you, Min-jun said quietly. That's what got him killed. Not the investigation. Not his job. Love. In my world, That's the most dangerous thing you can feel. And yet you avenged him. I avenged the principal. No one uses my property to stage a murder. No one kills civilians in my orbit without consequences. He met her eyes. But yes, I also did it for you. Because you deserved answers. Why do you care what I deserve? Min-jun smiled, but it was sad. Because you reminded me that not everyone in my world is poison. Some people are just trying to survive. And sometimes, those people deserve protection. 2 weeks later, Naomi sat in a cafe 3 states away, watching people live normal lives. She'd used Min-jun's money to relocate. New city, new name, new start. The FBI had closed Marcus's case as unsolved. His family still mourned, and Naomi carried the truth like a weight she could never put down. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text was simple. Lee talked before he died. Gave up his FBI handler. Agent Park is being investigated for corruption. Justice, in its way. Naomi deleted the message. Deleted the number. But she couldn't delete the memory of those weeks. Of finding Marcus. Of choosing to trust a monster. Of learning that sometimes justice wore an expensive suit and ruled from shadows. She'd survived. That was something. But she'd also learned a truth she couldn't unlearn. In Min-jun's world, everyone paid a price. Lee paid with his life. Marcus paid with his. And Naomi paid with the knowledge that she'd helped a crime lord execute someone, even if that someone deserved it. The cafe door opened. A man entered. For a moment, just a moment, she tensed. But it was just a customer. Normal, safe, not part of that world anymore. Except she knew she'd never really leave it. Because once you've seen behind the curtain, once you've stood in the darkness and made deals with devils, you carry that with you, always. Her phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. If you ever need anything, you know how to find me. You're protected. Always. Naomi almost smiled. Because that was Min-jun's version of kindness. Protection. Security. The promise that his power would keep her safe even as it reminded her she'd never truly be free. She typed back, I hope I never need to. His response came immediately, I hope that too. But hope is dangerous. Stay safe, Miss Okafor. The conversation ended. Naomi put her phone away, sipped her coffee, and watched the world move around her. Somewhere, Min-jun was running his empire. Lee was dead. Agent Park was fighting for her career. And Marcus was still gone. His body given a quiet burial by people who'd killed the man who ordered his death. Justice, in its way. Revenge, in its truth. And Naomi caught between both, trying to remember how to be human after dancing with monsters. 3 months passed. Naomi built a life. Small, quiet. She worked at a bookstore. Lived alone. Avoided getting close to anyone. Because closeness meant risk. Meant vulnerability. Meant potentially dragging someone else into darkness she couldn't control. Then one evening, Sarah appeared in the bookstore. Not threatening. Just present. Standing between shelves, looking at books she had no interest in. He didn't send me, Sarah said when Naomi approached. I came because I thought you should know. Know what? Agent Park didn't go quietly. She had insurance. Files. Evidence. She's gone public with everything she knows about Min-jun's organization. Sarah's expression was grim. It's going to be a war. FBI. Rival organizations. Everyone's going to come for him. That's not my problem anymore, isn't it? Sarah met her eyes. Lee told Park about you before he died. Told her you helped Min-jun find him. She thinks you're an accomplice. The FBI has a warrant out for your arrest. The world tilted. No, I didn't. I was just you were in it. That's all that matters to them. Sarah handed her a burner phone. Min-jun says the offer stands. Protection. New identity. Real safety. But you have to come back. Have to trust him again. And if I don't, then you're on your own. And Agent Park is very good at finding people who run. Naomi stared at the phone. At the choice being offered. Freedom that might get her killed or protection that would trap her forever. What does he want from me? She asked. The truth. Testimony that Lee was the traitor. That you witnessed evidence of his crimes. You flip on a dead man to protect a living one. Sarah's expression was neutral. It's your choice, but choose fast. Park's team is already tracking your credit cards. The trap had never really opened. Naomi understood that now. The moment she'd found Marcus in that pool, her fate had been sealed. She could run. could fight, could try to be free, but Min-jun's world had gravity, and once you fell into it, escape was an illusion. She took the phone. Tell him I'll do it, but after this, we're done. Really done. Sarah nodded. He said you'd say that. And he said to tell you that done is a concept, not a reality, but he'll give you as close to it as his world allows. That night, Naomi disappeared again, not into freedom, into protection, into the only shelter available when you'd made deals with devils and learned their secrets. She would testify, would help Min-jun survive the FBI's assault, would play her part in the game, and maybe eventually she'd earn her way out, or maybe she'd just learn to live in the shadows. Another ghost in Min-jun's empire, forever marked by the day she found her fiancé dead, and chose survival over truth. Either way, Marcus's death had changed everything, had pulled her into a world she couldn't escape, and taught her the hardest lesson that in Min-jun's empire, everyone paid a price. She just hoped hers wouldn't be her soul.